Welcome back to Closer Look on this Tuesday, the 22nd day of July, 2025. I'm Scott Sexsmith with Michael Friscolanti. Breaking news out of the music world today. Ozzy Osbourne has passed away at the age of 76.
Yeah, we just read that on the wires, as they say, just we were sitting down to record. Huge name in the music industry and just in pop culture as well, right? His reality show was such a hit back in the day, 20 years ago, around 20 years ago that show was.
I think so, yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of his music. I don't listen to it every day on my Spotify. But
Shocking.
But I guess he was I remember most for eating live bats on stage or something like that.
Yeah, it was something he bit a bat's head off and blood everywhere and, you know, what you got to do to get famous. But I'm with you. I was not a fan, but Mama, I'm Coming Home, of course, Crazy Train. If you've been to any hockey game anywhere, that song is always played as the players are warming up. But Ozzy Osbourne dead at the age of 76. And it was just last week that he was performing in Birmingham, England.
Did you see that performance?
I saw B-roll of it. He did not look well.
Didn't look well?
He did not look well.
That's what happens.
A life well lived, though.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of Crazy Train, the premieres are still in Huntsville.
It is a crazy train, yes.
It's still gathered in Muskoka for day 2 of the provincial premieres meetings. Prime Minister Mark Carney showed up today.
He did, yes.
To give a little bit of a briefing on how things are going with President Trump. And if you read between the lines, it doesn't sound like things are all that encouraging.
No, they are
He's
not.
Vowing to still get the best deal he can for Canada. But I don't know, Scott. We talk about this every day when we come on the show. The day August 1st is getting closer and closer, and I'm not sure how well we're going to do at the end of the day.
And do you think he's kind of laying the foundation when he says things like, I'm going to get the best deal I can for Canada, to just kind of, he's just kind of throwing that out there, testing the waters that there is going to be some form of a tariff. We don't know what it looks like, but there's going to be something.
For sure. I feel like he's lowering expectations a little bit. Right?
Yep.
Like last week, It was him conceding the fact that probably whatever the deal is, it won't involve zero tariffs, right?
Yeah.
That there's going to be something. It's interesting. You hear so many opinions on this issue, right? And you've heard that thought as well that, maybe this was a good thing for Canada. It forced us to look at ourselves a little closer and figure out, how we can better our own economies, specifically the issue we talked about before about breaking down provincial trade barriers and whether there's other things we can be doing to have less reliance on the United States. It was interesting, even when Michael Garcia was on the show last week, he's the CEO of Algoma Steel. He even talked a little bit, hinted a little bit about how, we were shipping so much product to the U.S. because it was easy and it was there.
Sure, yeah.
And even if things were to go back to the way they were before with zero tariffs, he wouldn't ship as much product. He would try to keep less steel going to the United States because it's too risky. It sets yourself up for too much risk when something like this happens.
Side note, we should have mentioned off the top, Nate Erskine-Smith was supposed to be here today as our guest. Nate, unfortunately, had something pop up in his calendar that he had to tend to. However, he promises he will be here tomorrow. So tomorrow night,
that's the promise.
Nate Erskine-Smith, speaking of political things happening that is capturing all kinds of headlines.
Yeah, Nate's really been in the news. Obviously, as a lot of our listeners would know, the Bonnie Crombie, the Ontario Liberal leader, her team has been sending out lots of messages to the party talking about how she needs their support at the leadership review in September, that they've made a lot of progress in the fight against Doug Ford and that the party's getting better. They've gained more seats at Queen's Park. The percentage of the vote went up, and they seem to have some good momentum. And they want to give their argument is that a leadership race would derail all that momentum they've had. Nate Erskine-Smith has done the opposite and reached out to all the party members saying that it's time for a change. And unless she gets 66% of the vote of support at the leadership review, that she should resign. And again, we're hoping to talk to him a little bit about that, so we'll be getting to that tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see, what happens if she does get 66%? Does that mean he's going to back out?
Well, it's a great question. A lot of the pundits have kind of pointed out that, if that does happen, it's pretty much the end of his leadership aspirations.
Absolutely.
If he has any, which we assume he does, or why else would he be doing this? Because it would really show that the party supports her and heading into whenever the next election will be, which we assume will be at least a couple of years from now. It's going to be a while. The Ford government's riding another big majority there in no rush to hold another election.
And when did 66% become an acceptable number? It still seems low to me that if that's your review rating or what you get when the caucus review, the party reviews your status, it's still not overwhelming.
Well, it's interesting. The way I understand it is I think all parties, it's to pass a motion, including a leadership review, is 50%
50
plus one,
yeah.
right? But in history, there's been, different leaders who've gotten, say, 2/3 support.
Right. Joe Clark.
Yeah, Joe Clark. And said, well, you know what? That's not good enough for me, so I'm going to step down because obviously the party doesn't have faith in me. I think the same happened with Jason Kenney in Alberta.
Yep.
And I believe, was it Ralph Klein, the mayor?
Ralph Klein.
Or not the mayor, sorry, the premier of Alberta.
And historically, I think even John Diefenbaker went through the same review.
Yeah, so it's definitely a newsworthy time to talk to Nate, and this is boiling up to September for when the convention is. But he canceled on us, 10 minutes before we were supposed to start the show?
It was 19, just to be clear.
It happens.
Just to be fair to Nate, it was 19 minutes.
It happens. We're all busy. But it does give us an opportunity to revisit this issue, because at the core of Trump's tariff demands, on his tariff policy, is this idea, this suggestion that fentanyl is just flowing over the U.S.
He's still saying it's still crossing.
And just as recently as a couple of days ago, he said that 35% tariffs are justified because of the drugs that are coming across the border to the United States from Canada. And there's been lots of reporting done trying to debunk this and to analyze this. And the vast majority of that reporting seems to show that very, very little fentanyl is going across the U.S., if any at all. And interestingly enough, when we started the new Closer Look podcast, one of our first guests was OPP Commissioner Thomas Carrique. He was on in the first week. And they had just had the biggest fentanyl bust in OPP history. And we asked him that question. We want to know whether, A, this bust had any signs of this fentanyl being bound for the United States, or in general, if the fentanyl that they are seizing in other investigations is bound for the U.S. And he had a very interesting answer. Commissioner, can you speak to this? I know there's been a lot of talk in the last couple of months about the Trump administration saying that a lot of fentanyl from Canada is going over the border to the United States. Did you see any of that in this investigation? And in general, do you see that in any of your investigations?
Great question. Thank you. And great opportunity to correct the misinformation. In this investigation, we did not see any of the fentanyl making its way across the Canada-U.S. border. There's very little evidence of that being a trend or pattern. Minimal amount of fentanyl has been seized going from Canada to the U.S., which does not eliminate the concern that both countries should have over fentanyl. Fentanyl is currently being produced domestically in Canada. The majority of the fentanyl produced in Canada is being trafficked in Canada. We are seeing some of it go to other countries around the world, but U.S. is not one of them. And the primary driver for that is fentanyl manufactured in Mexico is 4 times cheaper than fentanyl manufactured in Canada. Mm-hmm. As Detective Superintendent Bradford has indicated, the fentanyl market is all about profit. Yep. Everything that organized crime does is about profit. They are a poly-market industry, and they will go where the profit is. Yeah. So it makes absolutely no sense that Canadian fentanyl would be a preferred source in the U.S.
I love the response from the commissioner. Black and white, no BS.
Yeah, really, it's hard to see any gray area in that answer. He's basically saying that that's baloney, that there's not a whole bunch of fentanyl going across the border to the United States. It's an issue that obviously it's baffling to the average person, right? Because as we've talked about before, it's hard to find a rational economist who's saying that this is a great move for America, that this is because it's going to, like we talked about, impact prices south of the border. Everyday items, their prices are going up because of these tariffs. Now, the Trump administration is saying, but look at the revenue we're bringing in from these tariffs. That's great. But the other side is that the costs, the prices of things are inflating.
Well, that's to what end, right?
Yeah, to what end, right? Yeah. So it's just, I am not an expert in these issues. I'm not an expert in negotiating with other countries on anything or cracking a trade deal and making that happen. But
well, it's been a while since your last.
But one day, some books are going to come out about this whole process, and people with some really great sources who are inside these negotiations. And the question is, how do you even negotiate with someone who doesn't seem to make any sense in how and what they're saying? So usually, when two sides are negotiating, there's some hard facts that you can start with and then go from there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know what more. It's hard. So I guess what I'm saying is, whether Carney was the prime minister or Poilievre had won the election, he was the prime minister. How do you deal with a guy like this?
I don't know.
I don't know.
If you had two common sense people sitting in a room with the door closed where you could say, okay, we agree we both need some things.
Yes.
Here's what I really need.
Yes.
Tell me what you really need.
Yes.
And we'll meet in the middle and get it done.
Yeah.
That's how it should work.
And it's interesting because we talked earlier in the show about how Carney has done some things. He's told the public that, hey, we're probably not going to get a deal without tariffs. But at the same time, we've also appointed a fentanyl czar to look into fentanyl, specifically fentanyl crossing the U.S. border. We've agreed to boost our defense spending to 5% of the GDP from 2%, which has been a big argument from the Trump administration that we don't pay our fair share.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of things on those fronts. But again, does it make any difference? Is it seen as a win? Whereas in typical negotiations, that would be seen as you saying, I'm giving you this, like you just said. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like it's happening. No. It's happening right now.
All the good faith seems to be coming from us.
Yeah.
And there is no reciprocation.
Yeah. I feel bad for our listeners because we've kind of talked about this for the last 5 episodes. But
it's important.
August 1st is looming, and I don't know if we can talk enough about this. I think it's one of those things where you listen to industry talking about how they're basically handcuffed until we know what this is going to be. Yeah. So at least they can figure out a way forward. And we're all kind of stuck in that position. So let's just hope Jack Cowan's okay in Huntsville, that he's not still stuck in that side room he was on yesterday when he joined us.
Free breakfast at the Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah, or that he bought a shirt at the store across the way. And
Jack's a beauty.
Everything will be okay. Well, hopefully tomorrow we're talking to Nate Erskine-Smith.
Yeah, Nate Erskine-Smith, MP for Beaches East York in Toronto tomorrow night at 7. Fingers crossed here on Closer Look. Closer Look at villagemedia.ca. Any questions or thoughts on the show? We would love to hear from you. You can also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all over the place. I really should write these down so that I have them. It's a long list.
I don't think you've ever missed one.
I don't think so. Record is still intact. Of course, across the Village Media Network and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thanks for watching tonight. We're back tomorrow night at 7 again. Nate Erskine-Smith on Closer Look. Have a great night.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.